I want to talk about Antarctica.
I was very interested in Antarctica. There's undoubtedly a time when Antarctica was lush and green.
They are clearly protecting or preserving something that may or may not be under, I believe it's 3 miles, Mark was saying earlier, at its thickest of ice.
The question is, was it lush and green during the lifetime of the human species?
Yes, this is where it gets tricky.
And this is where it gets tricky.
But they can't dismiss what has just been found, because this new discovery under Antarctica changes everything. Deep beneath 3 miles of ice, where no human was supposed to have ever walked, remote sensing has confirmed the impossible. Geometric structures, a vast complex installation, aligned with cardinal directions and showing thermal anomalies that defy geological explanation. This isn't a natural formation. This is the fingerprint of a lost civilization. This is the home of the people who mapped the world during the Ice Age. A culture with a profound understanding of astronomy, capable of calculating longitude thousands of years before our own history says it was possible. They were a global seafaring people. And Antarctica, in a greener, warmer past, was one of their great centers. And then came the cataclysm. Around 12,800 years ago, the sky fell. The Younger Dryas impact event didn't just bring an ice age, it brought a great forgetting. It wiped the slate clean, submerging their world and burying their legacy under miles of ice, leaving us, their descendants, as a species with amnesia. What's been found isn't just a ruin, it's an archive, a time capsule designed to survive the very catastrophe that erased its builders from our memory. We've been told a simple story of linear progress, from primitive cave dwellers to us, but the truth now emerging from the ice is that we are the survivors of a great tragedy, haunted by a past we can't remember. This discovery isn't just rewriting a chapter of history, it's revealing that the entire book we've been reading is wrong.
Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, something extraordinary has been waiting. Something that challenges everything we thought we knew about human history, about the timeline of civilization itself, and about the very nature of our planet's past. What lies hidden under miles of ice isn't just rock and frozen water, it's evidence that could rewrite the entire story of human development on Earth. Picture this: 90 million years ago, Antarctica wasn't the frozen wasteland we know today. It was a lush, tropical paradise covered in dense rainforest that stretched across an entire continent. Palm trees swayed in warm breezes, and life flourished in ways that would seem impossible to us now.
That's probably true. If you go back that far, you would find that the Earth's climate was very different from how it is today. And there's undoubtedly a time, they found fossils on Antarctica, there's undoubtedly a time when Antarctica was lush and green. The question is, was it lush and green during the lifetime of the human species?
But that's not the discovery that's changing everything. The discovery that's shaking the foundations of archaeology and ancient history is far more recent, far more mysterious, and far more challenging to everything we've been taught about our ancestors. Under 3 miles of ice, researchers have found something that shouldn't exist, something that suggests human civilization is far older than we ever imagined, that our ancestors possessed knowledge and capabilities we've only recently begun to understand, and that a cataclysmic event around 12,800 years ago didn't just end the Ice Age, it erased an entire chapter of human history. The story begins not in Antarctica itself, but with ancient maps that appeared centuries before our civilization officially discovered the southern continent, maps that show Antarctica in impossible detail, maps created by people who supposedly had no knowledge of its existence, maps that depict coastlines hidden beneath ice for thousands of years. These aren't crude approximations or lucky guesses. They're precise, accurate representations of geographical features that modern science has only recently confirmed exist. Consider the Orontius Phineas world map from the 1500s. When you examine this map, created decades before any European had supposedly set foot near Antarctica, you see something remarkable. There, at the bottom of the world, is a detailed representation of Antarctica. Not a vague landmass added for artistic balance, but a carefully mapped continent showing coastlines, mountains, and geographical features that match what we now know lies beneath the ice.
That's Antarctica. And it even says the Antarctic Circle down there. That is Antarctica. And that's a problem, because our civilization did not discover Antarctica until 1820. We had no idea.
The mapmaker even included a legend written in Latin, boasting about revealing to the world areas that had been hidden in darkness before. But the Orontius Phineas map isn't alone. The Piri Reis map, created by a Turkish admiral in 1513, shows portions of Antarctica with startling accuracy. Piri Reis himself wrote on the map that he based his work on more than 100 older source maps, some of which had come from the legendary Library of Alexandria. These weren't random sketches or imaginative additions. They were careful reproductions of much older knowledge that somehow included detailed information about a continent that wouldn't be officially officially discovered until 1820, when our civilization did finally reach Antarctica in 1820. It was hailed as one of the great achievements of exploration. Nathaniel Palmer and other brave navigators pushed through treacherous seas and deadly ice to become the first humans to lay eyes on this mysterious southern land, or so we thought. The maps suggest otherwise. They suggest that someone somehow had been there long before, someone with the knowledge, the technology, and the maritime capability to explore and accurately map one of the most hostile environments on Earth. This is where the story becomes even more intriguing. The maps don't just show Antarctica, they show it as it would have appeared during the last ice age, when sea levels were 400 feet lower than they are today, and when the continent itself was larger and less covered by ice. To create such maps would have required not just the ability to reach Antarctica, but the astronomical knowledge to calculate longitude, a problem that wasn't solved by Western civilization until the mid-18th century. Longitude, those vertical lines that run down maps from pole to pole, represent one of the greatest navigational challenges in human history. Without knowing your longitude, a ship at sea is essentially lost. You might know roughly which direction you're traveling, but you have no idea how far east or west you've gone. For centuries, this led to countless shipwrecks, as vessels would crash into coastlines they thought were hundreds of miles away. The problem was so serious that the British government offered a massive prize, equivalent to millions of dollars today, to anyone who could solve it. The solution came through the development of extremely precise chronometers, clocks that could keep accurate time at sea despite the constant motion of the ship. By knowing the exact time at your home port and comparing it to local noon at your current position, you could calculate your longitude. It took the greatest minds of the 18th century to develop this technology, yet the ancient maps display relative longitudes with remarkable accuracy. This isn't a small detail or a minor curiosity. This is evidence of a level of technological sophistication that challenges our entire understanding of ancient capabilities. Someone, thousands of years ago, had solved problems that our civilization struggled with for centuries. Someone had developed navigation techniques that allowed them to explore and map the entire world, including its most remote and dangerous regions. But who were these ancient navigators? Where did they come from? And what happened to their civilization? The answers may lie buried beneath the ice of Antarctica itself, in discoveries that are only now beginning to come to light. Recent advances in remote sensing technology have revealed structures beneath the Antarctic ice that defy easy explanation. Ground-penetrating radar and satellite imagery have identified what appear to be artificial constructions, geometric patterns too regular to be natural, and anomalies that suggest human presence in a place where humans supposedly never lived. These aren't random blips or misinterpreted data. They're consistent, measurable features that indicate something significant lies beneath the ice. The discovery of these structures coincides with a growing body of evidence that suggests human civilization is far older and far more sophisticated than we've been taught. Around the world, archaeologists are finding sites that push back the timeline of human development by thousands of years. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, built over 11,000 years ago, features massive stone pillars arranged in complex patterns that required advanced engineering and astronomical knowledge. The Amazon rainforest is revealing vast geometric earthworks that speak to a sophisticated understanding of mathematics and astronomy. In Egypt, the Great Sphinx shows erosion patterns that suggest exposure to heavy rainfall that only occurred in that region over 12,000 years ago. All of these discoveries point to the same conclusion. There was a time, around 12,000 years ago, when human civilization had reached a level of sophistication that we're only beginning to appreciate. This wasn't the crude Stone Age culture we've imagined, but a complex society with advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, engineering, and navigation. A society capable of exploring the entire world, including its most remote corners. But what happened to this advanced civilization? Why did it disappear? Why do we have no written records, no obvious traces, no clear evidence of their cities and technologies? The answer may lie in one of the most catastrophic events in Earth's recent history, the Younger Dryas Impact Event. 12,800 years ago, just as human civilization was reaching new heights of sophistication, disaster struck from space. Not one asteroid or comet, but a swarm of fragments from a disintegrating comet slammed into Earth with devastating force. These impacts, concentrated primarily over North America, but affecting the entire planet, triggered a global catastrophe that lasted for over 1,000 years. The evidence for this catastrophe is found in a thin layer of Earth that can be seen in geological formations around the world. This layer, known as the Younger Dryas boundary, contains shocked quartz, nanodiamonds, and other materials that form only under the extreme pressures and temperatures of cosmic impacts. It also contains massive amounts of charcoal, evidence of wildfires that raged across continents.
So they found evidence of the impacts as far south as Antarctica now. Previously they were focused very much on North America. Now as far south as Antarctica, as far east as Syria. This was truly a global event, and it changed the world.
The dating of this layer corresponds exactly with the beginning of the Younger Dryas period, a time when global temperatures plummeted and the world entered a mini ice age that lasted over a millennium. The impacts that created this boundary layer weren't just random space rocks. They were fragments of what scientists now believe was a massive comet that entered our solar system around 20,000 years ago. As this comet comet approached the sun, it began to break apart, creating a debris field called the Taurid meteor stream. We still pass through this debris field twice a year, experiencing it as meteor showers. But 12,800 years ago, Earth encountered a particularly dense concentration of large fragments, resulting in multiple impacts across the planet. The effects were catastrophic. Massive ice sheets, some over a mile thick, were suddenly melted by the heat of the impacts. This released enormous quantities of fresh water into the world's oceans, disrupting ocean currents and triggering rapid climate change. The Gulf Stream, which acts as Earth's central heating system, was shut down by the influx of cold, fresh water. Global temperatures plummeted, and much of the northern hemisphere was plunged into an ice age that lasted over 1,000 years. For human civilization, the impacts were devastating. Entire continents were scoured by floods as ice sheets collapsed. Coastal areas, where many advanced settlements likely existed, were inundated by rapidly rising seas. The sky would have been filled with dust and debris, blocking sunlight and creating a nuclear winter effect. Crops would have failed, ecosystems would have collapsed, and the survivors would have faced a struggle for survival unlike anything in recorded history. This is when the maritime civilization that created those impossible maps would have met its end. Their coastal cities would have been swallowed by rising seas. Their agricultural systems would have collapsed under the sudden climate change. Their trade networks would have been severed as communities focused on basic survival rather than exploration and commerce. Within a few generations, the knowledge and capabilities that had taken millennia to develop would have been lost, but some survived. Small groups of this advanced civilization, scattered across the globe, would have sought refuge among the hunter-gatherer populations that were better equipped to survive in the harsh new world. These survivors would have carried with them fragments of their lost knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, engineering, and navigation. Over time, this knowledge would have been passed down through oral traditions, myths, and religious teachings, eventually forming the foundation for the civilizations we know from recorded history. This scenario explains many of the mysteries we see in ancient civilizations. It explains how the builders of the pyramids possessed knowledge of astronomy and mathematics that seems impossibly advanced for their time. It explains the similarities between mythologies from cultures that supposedly never had contact with each other. It explains the worldwide tradition of flood myths that speak of a great deluge that destroyed an earlier, more advanced civilization. Most importantly, it explains those maps of Antarctica. But if this scenario is correct, if there really was an advanced maritime civilization before the Younger Dryas catastrophe, then we should expect to find evidence of their presence in places like Antarctica, and that's exactly what we're starting to discover. The first hints came from anomalies in satellite imagery. Photographs taken from space showed unusual geometric patterns beneath the ice, structures too regular to be natural formations. Ground-penetrating radar revealed voids and chambers that suggested artificial construction. Most intriguingly, thermal imaging detected heat signatures that indicated possible geothermal activity, or perhaps something else, generating warmth beneath the ice. These discoveries have been kept largely out of the public eye, partly because of international agreements that restrict activity in Antarctica, and partly because the implications are so staggering that scientists are proceeding with extreme caution. The Antarctic Treaty, signed in 1959, designates Antarctica as a scientific preserve and prohibits military activity on the continent, but it also effectively limits who can conduct research there and what kinds of investigations are permitted. Recent reports suggest that beneath the ice, researchers have found structures that appear to be artificial, geometric patterns that suggest advanced planning and construction, chambers and corridors that seem designed for human habitation. Most remarkably, some reports describe finding what appear to be artifacts, objects that could only have been created by an intelligent civilization. The existence of such structures beneath Antarctic ice wouldn't just be an archaeological discovery, it would validate the ancient maps and the oral traditions that speak of a worldwide maritime civilization. Most importantly, it would demonstrate that human civilization is far more resilient and far more ancient than we've believed. But the discovery of ancient structures in Antarctica would also raise profound questions about the nature of human development and the relationship between technology and environment. How did an ancient civilization adapt to Antarctica's harsh conditions? What technologies did they develop to survive and thrive in one of Earth's most challenging environments? And what can we learn from their experience that might help us address our own environmental challenges? The evidence suggests that Antarctica wasn't always the frozen wasteland we know today. During the last interglacial period, roughly 120,000 years ago, global temperatures were significantly warmer than they are now. Antarctica may have been largely ice-free, with temperatures suitable for human habitation. Even during the Ice Age, certain areas of Antarctica, particularly along the coast and in geothermally active regions, may have remained habitable for those with sufficient knowledge and technology technology, an advanced maritime civilization would have been perfectly positioned to take advantage of Antarctica's resources during warmer periods. The continent is rich in minerals and other natural resources. Its position at the South Pole would have made it an ideal base for astronomical observations, as the southern sky would have been visible in its entirety throughout the year. For a civilization with advanced knowledge of astronomy and navigation, Antarctica might have served as a kind of scientific outpost or research station. This possibility becomes even more intriguing when we consider the ancient understanding of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that changes the apparent positions of stars over thousands of years. Advanced ancient astronomers were clearly aware of precession, as evidenced by the alignment of monuments like the pyramids and Stonehenge to stellar positions from thousands of years before they were supposedly built. For astronomers tracking precession over long periods, Antarctica would have provided an unparalleled observational platform. The numbers associated with precession appear consistently in ancient mythologies and architectural measurements around the world. The key number is 72, which represents the number of years it takes for the sun's position against the stellar background to shift by 1 degree. This number and its multiples appear in traditions from Egypt to India to Cambodia, suggesting a sophisticated understanding of astronomical cycles that required centuries of careful observation to detect. The Great Pyramid itself encodes these precessional numbers in its dimensions. When you multiply the pyramid's original height by 43,200, you get the polar radius of Earth. When you multiply its base perimeter by the same number, you get Earth's equatorial circumference. That specific number, 43,200, is 600 times 72, a precessional number that speaks to a deep understanding of both astronomy and the dimensions of our planet. Such knowledge couldn't have been developed overnight. It would have required generations of careful observation and record-keeping, conducted by a civilization with the stability and sophistication to maintain scientific traditions over vast periods of time. For such observations to be conducted in the southern hemisphere, where different constellations are visible, would have required bases or outposts in places like Antarctica. The discovery of ancient structures beneath Antarctic ice would also help explain one of the most persistent mysteries in archaeology, the similarity of megalithic construction techniques around the world. From the precisely fitted stones of Machu Picchu to the massive blocks of Stonehenge, ancient civilizations seem to have shared knowledge of advanced construction techniques that allowed them to move and place stones weighing hundreds of tons with impossible precision. Mainstream archaeology attributes these similarities to coincidence or to the independent development of similar techniques by isolated cultures, but the similarities are too numerous and too specific to be easily dismissed. The techniques used to cut, transport, and place megalithic stones are remarkably consistent across continents and cultures that supposedly had no contact with each other. The astronomical alignments of these monuments show similar levels of sophistication and similar understanding of celestial mechanics. A global maritime civilization, with bases in places like Antarctica, would provide a much simpler explanation for these similarities. Such a civilization could have maintained contact between different regions of the world, sharing knowledge and techniques across vast distances.
The problem is that Antarctica appears repeatedly on these much older maps, and it appears in the right place and a bit bigger than it is today, but very much as it looked during the last ice age. So what all of this suggests to me is that the world was mapped and explored by a global seafaring culture.
They could have established outposts or trading centers that served as nodes in a worldwide network of knowledge and commerce. When their civilization was destroyed by the Younger Dryas catastrophe, survivors in different regions would have retained fragments of this shared knowledge, which they then incorporated into the monuments and traditions of later cultures. This scenario also explains the worldwide tradition of culture bearers, mythical figures who appeared after great catastrophes to teach civilization to surviving populations. These figures, known by names like Quetzalcoatl in Mesoamerica, Viracocha in South America, and Thoth in Egypt, are consistently described as bringing knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, mathematics, and construction to primitive peoples. Rather than being purely mythical, these traditions may preserve memories of actual survivors from the lost civilization who dedicated themselves to preserving and transmitting crucial knowledge. The discovery of structures beneath Antarctic ice would validate these traditions and provide physical evidence for what has long been dismissed as mythology. It would prove that human civilization has faced catastrophic challenges before and has found ways to preserve essential knowledge through dark ages. Most importantly, it would demonstrate that we are not the first technological civilization to develop on Earth, and that our current achievements may be rediscoveries rather than original innovations. But the implications extend beyond archaeology and history. The discovery of an ancient Antarctic civilization would have profound consequences for our understanding of climate change, change and environmental adaptation. If humans did establish a presence in Antarctica thousands of years ago, they would have had to develop technologies and strategies for dealing with extreme cold, isolation, and harsh environmental conditions. Their techniques for survival and construction in such an environment could provide valuable insights for our own efforts to adapt to changing climate conditions. The ancient maps that started this investigation provide another crucial piece of evidence: the accuracy of their geographical features, particularly their depiction of coastlines that are now hidden beneath ice, suggests that they were created during a period when Antarctica was more accessible than it is today. The maps show Antarctica as it would have appeared during the late Ice Age, when sea levels were lower and when more of the continent's coastline was exposed. This timing corresponds perfectly with the end of the last interglacial period and the beginning of the Ice Age proper, around 100,000 years ago. During this transition, a maritime civilization with advanced ships and navigation technology might have explored Antarctica before it became completely icebound. They might have established bases or settlements in areas that remained habitable due to geothermal activity or favorable microclimates. When the Younger Dryas catastrophe struck 12,800 years ago, these Antarctic outposts would have been among the few installations of the ancient civilization to survive relatively intact. Protected by their remote location and their adaptation to harsh conditions, they might have continued to function long after the main centers of civilization had been destroyed. The survivors of these outposts might have been among the culture bearers who eventually made contact with other surviving populations around the world. The thermal anomalies detected beneath Antarctic ice support this possibility. Certain areas of the continent show heat signatures that can't be explained by known geological activity. While some of these anomalies might be due to previously unknown geothermal features, others might indicate the presence of artificial structures or even active installations. The idea of the ancient installations still generating heat after thousands of years might seem fantastic, but it's not necessarily impossible given sufficiently advanced technology. Recent discoveries in other parts of the world provide precedents for the preservation of ancient structures in hostile environments. In the Amazon rainforest, LiDAR technology has revealed vast networks of earthworks and structures that had been completely hidden by vegetation for centuries. These discoveries show that sophisticated civilizations can leave traces that remain hidden until modern technology reveals them. In Siberia, structures preserved in permafrost have remained intact for tens of thousands of years. The Antarctic ice could provide even better preservation conditions for ancient installations. The discovery of artificial structures beneath Antarctic ice would also help explain some of the more puzzling aspects of ancient technology. How did the builders of the pyramids achieve such precise stone cutting and placement? How did ancient civilizations move blocks weighing hundreds of tons across vast distances? How did they achieve astronomical alignments with such extraordinary accuracy? The traditional answers, ramps, rope, and human labor, become increasingly inadequate as we learn more about the actual requirements of these projects. Some researchers have suggested that ancient civilizations possessed technologies that we don't fully understand, perhaps acoustic levitation techniques that could manipulate heavy objects using sound waves, or other methods that left no obvious archaeological traces. The discovery of intact ancient installations in Antarctica might provide actual examples of such technologies, preserved in conditions that would prevent normal deterioration. The implications for our understanding of human consciousness and capability would be equally profound. The precision of ancient astronomical observations, the sophistication of mathematical concepts encoded in ancient monuments, and the apparent global nature of certain knowledge traditions suggest that our ancestors possessed mental capabilities that we may have underestimated. The idea that technological civilizations have risen and fallen before challenges our assumption that human development follows a simple linear progression from primitive to advanced. The cyclical nature of civilization, with periods of advancement followed by collapse and reconstruction, appears in many ancient traditions. The Hindu concept of yugas describes vast cycles of time during which human consciousness and capability rise and fall. Greek and Roman historians wrote about previous ages of gold and silver that preceded their own time. Native American traditions speak of previous worlds that were destroyed by catastrophes, requiring the few survivors to begin civilization anew.
That's what this was. So this is the 1958 book, Earth's Shifting Crust.
Yep.
Albert Einstein, right? Okay.
These traditions take on new significance in light of the Younger Dryas impact evidence and the possibility of pre-catastrophe civilizations. Rather than being purely mythical, they may preserve actual memories of cyclical rises and falls of human civilization. The discovery of ancient Antarctic installations would provide physical confirmation of at least one such cycle, proving that human achievement can reach great heights, face catastrophic setbacks, and eventually recover. The technological aspects of survival in Antarctica also raise intriguing questions about the methods methods used by ancient civilizations? How did they generate power in an environment where solar energy would be limited for months at a time? How did they maintain installations across vast distances without modern communication technology? How did they adapt their agricultural and food production systems to polar conditions? Some possibilities include the use of geothermal energy, which would be available in certain areas of Antarctica even during ice ages. The continent sits on top of significant geothermal resources, and an advanced civilization might have developed sophisticated techniques for tapping into these energy sources. They might have also developed methods for creating artificial environments, enclosed spaces, where temperature and humidity could be controlled to allow for agriculture and comfortable living conditions. The navigation technologies required to reach and supply Antarctic installations would have been formidable. Ancient navigators would have needed not just the ability to calculate longitude and latitude with extreme precision, but also the knowledge to deal with the unique challenges of polar navigation. Magnetic compasses become unreliable near the poles, and traditional stellar navigation techniques must be adapted for polar conditions. The development of such capabilities would represent a pinnacle of ancient technological achievement. The ships required for Antarctic voyages would have been massive and sophisticated vessels, capable of carrying large crews and supplies. Across thousands of miles of treacherous ocean, they would have needed to be built to withstand ice, extreme weather, and the unique stresses of polar navigation. The fact that no examples of such ships have been discovered isn't necessarily surprising. Wooden vessels degrade rapidly in most environments, and the locations where such ships might have been built or used may now be underwater due to post-ice age sea level rise. The preservation of knowledge across the catastrophic period that ended this civilization would have required sophisticated information storage and transmission systems. While we might expect to find written records, the civilization might have relied primarily on other methods of knowledge preservation. Astronomical alignments in stone monuments could serve as permanent libraries, encoding mathematical and astronomical knowledge in forms that would survive almost any catastrophe. Oral traditions, carefully maintained by specialized groups, could preserve detailed technical knowledge across generations. The role of consciousness-altering plants and substances in ancient knowledge traditions adds another layer to this investigation. Many ancient cultures used various plant medicines to achieve altered states of consciousness that they believe provided access to higher knowledge or communication with other realms of existence. The Amazon rainforest, where sophisticated geometric earthworks have recently been discovered, is also home to ayahuasca and other powerful plant medicines that indigenous cultures have used for thousands of years. The connection between these plant medicines and advanced knowledge isn't merely coincidental. Many of the greatest scientific breakthroughs in modern times have been attributed to insights gained during psychedelic experiences. The discovery of DNA's double helix structure, the development of the polymerase chain reaction technique crucial for genetic research, and the initial insights that led to the development of personal computers have all been linked to experiences with consciousness-altering substances. If an ancient civilization did establish installations in Antarctica, they might have brought knowledge of plant medicines from other regions, or they might have discovered local sources of consciousness-altering substances. Such substances could have played a role in their astronomical observations, mathematical insights, or technological developments. The preservation of this, a knowledge through the post-catastrophe period, might help explain the sudden appearance of sophisticated concepts in early post-catastrophe civilizations. The astronomical knowledge encoded in ancient monuments becomes even more remarkable when viewed in this context. The ability to track precession over thousands of years, to predict eclipses and planetary alignments, and to encode complex mathematical relationships in stone structures suggests a level of mental capability that goes beyond mere technical knowledge. It suggests a deep understanding of the connections between consciousness, mathematics, and the cosmos. The discovery of Antarctic installations would provide an unprecedented opportunity to study how an ancient civilization adapted to extreme environmental conditions while maintaining sophisticated knowledge traditions. The isolation of Antarctica would have required the inhabitants to be largely self-sufficient, developing closed-loop systems for energy, food production, waste management, and manufacturing. Their solutions to these challenges might provide insights that could help modern civilization deal with resource scarcity and environmental degradation. The psychological and social adaptations required for long-term survival in Antarctica would have been equally challenging. Small, isolated communities would have needed to develop social structures that could maintain cohesion and prevent conflicts that could be fatal in such an environment. They would have needed to preserve knowledge and skills across generations, without the larger population base that typically supports specialization and advanced learning. These requirements might have led to the development of unique educational and social systems that maximized individual capability while maintaining group cooperation. The legends of ancient mystery schools and initiation systems might preserve memories of such educational approaches. The emphasis on holistic development, combining physical training, intellectual learning, and spiritual development that characterizes many ancient traditions might reflect practical necessities from this earlier period. The end of the Antarctic installations, whether gradual or sudden, would have marked the final closing of the pre-catastrophe civilization chapter. The survivors who eventually made contact with other populations around the world would have carried with them not just technical knowledge, but also profound wisdom about adaptation, survival, and the cyclical nature of civilizational development. Their influence on the development of post-catastrophe civilizations might explain many of the sophisticated concepts that appear in early historical cultures. The investigation of possible Antarctic installations faces numerous practical and political challenges. The Antarctic Treaty System restricts activities on the continent and requires international cooperation for major research projects. The extreme environment makes investigation difficult and expensive. The potential implications of significant discoveries could create political tensions if different nations attempted to claim jurisdiction over important sites. Despite these challenges, modern technology is providing new ways to investigate what lies beneath the ice. Satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, and advanced thermal imaging can reveal structures and anomalies without requiring physical excavation. Robotic systems can access areas that would be too dangerous or difficult for human researchers. As these technologies improve, we may be able to conduct detailed investigations of suspected installation sites without violating Antarctic Treaty restrictions. The possibility that such investigations might reveal evidence of ancient human presence in Antarctica represents one of the most significant potential discoveries in human history. It would vindicate alternative theories about ancient civilization that have been dismissed by mainstream archaeology. It would provide physical evidence for the cyclical nature of human development and the reality of catastrophic setbacks that have shaped our history. Most importantly, it would demonstrate that human civilization is far more resilient and adaptable than we have imagined. The knowledge preserved in such installations might include technologies and approaches that could help modern civilization deal with its own challenges. Climate adaptation techniques, sustainable energy systems, closed-loop resource management, and social structures that can maintain stability under stress might all be represented in ancient Antarctic installations. The psychological and spiritual techniques developed by people who had to maintain hope and purpose in one of Earth's most challenging environments might provide crucial insights for dealing with modern existential challenges. The discovery would also validate the importance of preserving and studying indigenous knowledge traditions around the world. Many of these traditions may preserve fragments of pre-catastrophe knowledge that could provide crucial pieces of the puzzle. The geometric earthworks being discovered in the Amazon, the sophisticated astronomical knowledge embedded in various cultural traditions, and the worldwide distribution of similar mythological themes all suggest that the post-catastrophe survival and knowledge preservation process was far more extensive than previously imagined. The implications extend beyond human history to our understanding of planetary and cosmic cycles. The Younger Dryas impact event wasn't unique. Earth has been struck by cosmic debris many times throughout its history, and it will be struck again. The Taurid meteor stream that apparently caused the Younger Dryas catastrophe is still active, and Earth passes through it twice each year. While most of the debris consists of small particles that create harmless meteor showers, larger fragments remain in the stream and could pose future threats. An ancient civilization that had survived one cosmic impact might have developed knowledge and technologies relevant to detecting and possibly deflecting future threats. Their astronomical observations might have included sophisticated tracking of potentially hazardous objects. Their survival techniques might provide models for maintaining civilization through cosmic or environmental catastrophes. The discovery of their installations could provide crucial information for our own species' long-term survival. The investigation of Antarctic anomalies also highlights the importance of maintaining an open mind about human history and capability. The tendency to underestimate ancient achievements and to assume that our current civilization represents the pinnacle of human development may prevent us from learning crucial lessons from the past. The evidence suggests that human consciousness and capability may be far more flexible and adaptable than we typically assume. The role of altered states of consciousness in ancient knowledge traditions suggests that our ancestors may have accessed information and insights through methods that we don't fully understand or accept. The consistent reports of contact with seemingly intelligent entities during psychedelic experiences, the geometric patterns that appear in both ancient art and consciousness, altering experiences, and the sophisticated mathematical and astronomical knowledge that appears in cultures around the world all point to the possibility that consciousness itself may have capabilities that we haven't recognized. The discovery of ancient Antarctic installations would provide an opportunity to study these phenomena in a controlled environment. If such installations contained spaces or technologies designed for consciousness exploration, we might gain insights into ancient approaches to expanding human mental capability. The isolation of Antarctica would have made it an ideal location for deep contemplation and exploration of consciousness, free from the distractions and demands of more populated areas. The long polar nights and days would have created unique opportunities for astronomical observation and contemplation. The aurora australis, the southern version of the northern lights, would have provided spectacular displays that could have inspired or facilitated altered states of consciousness. The extreme environment itself might have served as a natural catalyst for expanded awareness and insight. The preservation of advanced knowledge through environmental catastrophe requires not just technological solutions, but also profound wisdom about what knowledge is truly essential for human survival and development. The survivors who eventually spread this knowledge around the world would have had to make crucial decisions about what to preserve and what to abandon. Their choices might have shaped the development of all subsequent civilizations. The emphasis on astronomy and mathematics in preserved ancient knowledge might reflect practical necessities for navigation and calendar keeping, but it might also reflect deeper insights about the nature of reality and consciousness. The geometric patterns that appear consistently in ancient art and architecture might encode information about the fundamental structures of space, time, and consciousness. The discovery of intact ancient installations could provide access to knowledge systems that we haven't yet learned to read or understand. The investigation of Antarctic anomalies represents more than just archaeological curiosity. It represents an opportunity to understand our place in cosmic and terrestrial cycles that extend far beyond recorded history. The evidence suggests that Earth has experienced multiple episodes of civilizational development and catastrophic reset. Understanding these cycles could help us prepare for future challenges and could provide perspective on our current environmental and social problems. The discovery that human civilization has faced and survived global catastrophes before could provide both humility and hope. Humility because it would demonstrate that our current achievements, impressive as they may seem, are not unprecedented and are not immune to natural forces beyond our control. Hope because it would prove that human consciousness and civilization are resilient enough to survive even the most devastating challenges and to rebuild knowledge and capability from almost nothing. The ancient maps that started this investigation represent just one small fragment of what may be a vast treasure trove of preserved knowledge. If installations really do exist beneath Antarctic ice, they might contain libraries, laboratories, observatories, and other facilities that could revolutionize our understanding of ancient capability.
Yeah, Antarctica is an interesting
This
place.
is my newest rabbit hole.
It's one of those great you see, there's Antarctica. That's the Orontes Finis.
To the right?
There's South Africa, and there's Antarctica, and there's the tip of South America, almost touching Antarctica. It's a bit bigger than it is today, but it would have been like that during the last ice age.
They might also contain technologies and approaches that could help us address current challenges like climate change, resource depletion, and social fragmentation. The search for these installations requires not just advanced technology, but also the wisdom to approach them with appropriate respect and caution. If they do exist, they represent sacred sites that preserve the greatest achievements of our ancestors. Their investigation should be conducted with the same care and reverence that we would want future investigators to show toward our own most important cultural sites. The possibility that we may not be the first technological civilization to develop on Earth has profound implications for our understanding of human potential and cosmic responsibility. If previous civilizations have risen to great heights, only to be brought low by cosmic catastrophes, we bear the responsibility to learn from their experience and to prepare for similar challenges. We also bear the responsibility to ensure that the knowledge and wisdom we develop survives whatever catastrophes may lie ahead. The ancient Antarctic installations, if they exist, may represent humanity's first attempt to create a civilization that could survive global catastrophe. Their remote location, their adaptation to extreme conditions, and their apparent preservation of advanced knowledge all suggest that they were designed with long-term survival in mind. The lessons they could teach about resilience, adaptation, and knowledge preservation could be crucial for our species' future. As we stand at our own crossroads, facing challenges that could determine whether our civilization survives and thrives or joins the list of collapsed societies, the discovery of ancient Antarctic installations could provide both warnings and guidance. They could show us that civilizational collapse is not only possible, but inevitable unless we learn to live in harmony with cosmic and terrestrial cycles. They could also show us that such collapses are not necessarily final, that human consciousness and capability can survive even the darkest periods and can eventually rebuild what was lost. The investigation continues, using technology that would have seemed magical to our ancestors, but that pales in comparison to what they may have achieved. Each new satellite image, each radar scan, each thermal anomaly brings us closer to answering fundamental questions about human history. and potential. The ice of Antarctica may be holding secrets that could transform our understanding of who we are, where we came from, and where we might be going. The discovery of ancient structures beneath the ice would mark not an end but a beginning, the beginning of a new chapter in human self-understanding that could guide us through the challenges ahead and help us ensure that our own achievements survive for future generations to discover and build upon. The story of human civilization may be far older, far more complex, and far more hopeful than we ever imagined. And the key to understanding that story may be waiting for us beneath the ice at the bottom of the world. The convergence of evidence from multiple sources, ancient maps, geological data, satellite imagery, and thermal anomalies creates a compelling case for further investigation. The ancient mapmakers who somehow knew about Antarctica weren't random fantasists or lucky guessers. They were preserving real knowledge about real places that their civilization had actually visited and explored. The precision of their geographical features, particularly those hidden beneath ice for thousands of years, could only have come from direct observation and careful surveying. The technology required for such expeditions would have been formidable by any standard. Ships capable of polar navigation, instruments for a precise measurement of longitude and latitude, techniques for surviving in extreme cold, and methods for creating permanent installations in one of Earth's most hostile environments all represent achievements that we're only beginning to appreciate. The fact that this technology was developed thousands of years before our own civilization solved similar problems suggests that human ingenuity and adaptability may be far greater than we typically assume. The survival of this knowledge through the catastrophic Younger Dryas period required not just technological capability, but also profound wisdom about knowledge preservation and transmission. The survivors who carried fragments of this knowledge to other parts of the world would have had to make crucial decisions about what to preserve, how to encode it for future generations, and how to ensure its survival through periods of civilizational collapse. The methods they used, astronomical alignments in stone monuments, mathematical relationships encoded in architectural proportions, oral traditions carefully maintained across generations, and symbolic systems that could preserve complex information in simple forms, all speak to a sophisticated understanding of how knowledge persists through time. The discovery of installations beneath Antarctic ice would validate these preservation methods and might reveal additional techniques that we haven't yet recognized. Ancient libraries might exist not as collections of written documents, which would be vulnerable to decay and destruction, but as sophisticated three-dimensional information storage systems embedded in the architecture and layout of the installations themselves. The geometric patterns detected by satellite imaging suggest that any structures beneath the ice were designed according to mathematical principles that reflect deep understanding of fundamental relationships between space, time, and consciousness. These patterns might serve multiple functions, providing structural stability for constructions in challenging environments, encoding astronomical and mathematical information for future discovery, and creating spaces that facilitate expanded states of consciousness and enhanced learning. The thermal signatures detected beneath certain areas of Antarctic ice provide some of the most intriguing evidence for the existence of artificial structures. While geothermal activity could explain some of these signatures, others appear in locations and patterns that suggest artificial heat sources. The possibility that ancient installations might still be generating heat after thousands of years raises fascinating questions about the technologies that might have been employed. Advanced civilizations often develop technologies that become self-sustaining over long periods. Geothermal tapping systems, once properly established, could continue functioning for millennia with minimal maintenance. Underground chambers designed to capture and circulate geothermal energy could maintain comfortable temperatures even during the harshest ice age conditions. Such systems would explain both the thermal signatures and the possibility that structures beneath the ice might still be accessible and habitable. The implications of discovering intact, habitable installations would extend far beyond archaeology and history. Such installations might contain not just artifacts and records, but actual technologies that could be studied and potentially adapted for modern use. Energy systems that have operated continuously for thousands of years could provide insights into sustainable technology that could help address current environmental challenges. The psychological impact of such discoveries would be equally profound. The knowledge that human civilization has achieved great heights before, survived global catastrophes, and preserved essential knowledge through dark ages could provide both humility and inspiration. It would demonstrate that our current challenges, severe as they may seem, are not unprecedented and are not insurmountable. The ancient understanding of cyclical time, found in cultures around the world, takes on new significance in this context. Rather than viewing history as linear progress from primitive to advanced, ancient cultures understood that civilizations rise and fall in great cycles, with each cycle building upon the knowledge preserved from previous ones. The discovery of pre-catastrophe installations would provide physical confirmation of this cyclical view and might help us understand our place in these larger patterns. The role of cosmic forces in shaping human history becomes undeniable when we consider the Younger Dryas, impact evidence, and its correlation with the end of advanced Ice Age civilizations. The torrid meteor stream that apparently caused this catastrophe is still active, and Earth continues to pass through it twice each year. While most encounters result in harmless meteor showers, the possibility of future encounters with larger fragments remains a real threat to modern civilization. An ancient civilization that survived one cosmic impact event might have developed sophisticated knowledge about detecting and potentially deflecting such threats. Their astronomical observations might have included detailed tracking of potentially hazardous objects and understanding of orbital mechanics that could predict future encounters. The discovery of their installations might provide crucial information for protecting our own civilization from similar threats. The navigation and exploration capabilities demonstrated by the ancient maps suggest that the lost civilization possessed maritime technology that rivaled or exceeded our own capabilities until quite recently. The ability to navigate accurately in polar waters, to establish and supply remote installations, and to create detailed maps of global coastlines all required technologies and techniques that our civilization didn't develop until the 18th and 19th centuries. The absence of surviving ships from this period isn't necessarily surprising when we consider that wooden vessels decay rapidly in most environments. However, installations built in permafrost or beneath ice could preserve not just structures but also equipment, tools, and other artifacts that would provide direct evidence of ancient technological capabilities. The discovery of intact ancient workshops or laboratories could revolutionize our understanding of pre-catastrophe human achievement. The astronomical knowledge encoded in ancient monuments around the world provides another line of evidence for advanced pre-catastrophe civilization. The precise tracking of precession, the accurate prediction of eclipses and planetary alignments, and the impact evidence, and its correlation with the end of advanced ice civilizations. The torrid stream that apparently caused this catastrophe is still active, and Earth through it twice each year. While most encounters result in the possibility of future encounters with larger fragments remains a threat to modern civilization. And distractions would have made it perfect for long-term astronomical observations. The continuous darkness of polar winter would have provided months of uninterrupted stargazing, while the continuous daylight of polar summer would have allowed for solar observations and calculations. The discovery of ancient observatories beneath Antarctic ice might provide not just confirmation of advanced astronomical knowledge, but actual records of observations spanning thousands of years. Such records could include detailed tracking of comet orbits, predictions of future cosmic encounters, and observations of stellar movements that could help us understand long-term cosmic cycles that affect Earth's climate and environment. The mathematical knowledge demonstrated by ancient civilizations also suggests access to educational and research institutions that could maintain and develop sophisticated concepts over long periods. The calculation of pi to extraordinary accuracy, the understanding of complex geometric relationships, and the development of mathematical concepts that wouldn't be rediscovered by Western civilization until recent centuries all point to systematic mathematical research and education. Antarctic installations might have served as centers for such research, where scholars from around the world could gather to collaborate on long-term projects requiring sustained attention and resources. The isolation would have provided freedom from political and social distractions, while the unique environment might have facilitated states of consciousness conducive to mathematical and philosophical insight. The role of altered states of consciousness in ancient knowledge traditions adds another dimension to the Antarctic investigation. Many of the most sophisticated ancient insights about mathematics, astronomy, and the nature of reality appear to have emerged from contemplative practices that involved altered states of consciousness. The extreme environment of Antarctica, with its long periods of darkness and light, its isolation and its harsh beauty, would have provided a natural setting for such practices. The discovery of spaces designed for consciousness exploration within ancient Antarctic installations would provide unprecedented insights into ancient approaches to expanding human mental capabilities. Such spaces might have been designed according to acoustic and geometric principles that facilitate altered states of consciousness, or they might have incorporated technologies that we don't yet understand for expanding awareness and insight. The preservation of plant medicines or other consciousness-altering substances in Antarctic installations would provide direct evidence of ancient, sophisticated understanding of neurochemistry and psychology. While the harsh environment might seem unsuitable for such substances, advanced preservation techniques or the cultivation of hardy psychoactive species might have made such preservation possible. The integration of consciousness exploration with scientific observation and technological development represents a holistic approach to knowledge that contrasts sharply with the fragmented specialization of modern civilization. Ancient Antarctic installations might demonstrate how contemplative practices, scientific observation, and technological development can be combined in ways that enhance all three domains. The social and psychological requirements for maintaining advanced civilization in Antarctica's extreme environment would have demanded extraordinary cooperation and social cohesion. Small, isolated communities would have needed to develop social structures that could prevent conflicts that could be fatal in such an environment, while maintaining the motivation and purpose necessary for long-term projects spanning generations. The mystery schools and initiation systems found in many ancient cultures might preserve memories of the educational and social techniques developed for such environments. The emphasis on developing individual capability while maintaining group harmony, the integration of practical skills with philosophical understanding, and the transmission of knowledge through carefully structured progressive learning all suggest approaches that would be essential for isolated communities undertaking advanced projects. The end of these installations, whether gradual or sudden, would have required careful planning for knowledge preservation and transmission. The survivors who eventually made contact with other populations would have needed to carry not just technical information, but also the social and psychological techniques necessary for rebuilding civilization under different conditions. The legends of culture bearers who appeared after great catastrophes to teach civilization to surviving populations take on new significance in this context. Rather than being purely mythical figures, these might be memories of actual survivors from Antarctic installations who dedicated themselves to preserving and transmitting essential knowledge to hunter-gatherer populations better adapted to post-catastrophe conditions. The influence of these culture bearers on the development of post-catastrophe civilizations might explain the remarkable sophistication that appears suddenly in early historical cultures. The astronomical knowledge of ancient Egypt, the mathematical insights of ancient India, the engineering capabilities of pre-Columbian America all suggest access to knowledge that had been developed over much longer periods than the historical record suggests. The worldwide distribution of similar flood myths, culture-bearer legends, and sophisticated knowledge traditions suggests that the knowledge preservation and transmission process was global in scope. Survivors from Antarctic installations might have made contact with populations on every continent, ensuring that essential knowledge was preserved in multiple locations and cultural contexts. The investigation of Antarctic anomalies using modern technology provides an unprecedented opportunity to test these theories and potentially discover direct evidence of pre-catastrophe civilization. The combination of satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar, thermal sensing, and other remote sensing technologies allows for detailed investigation without the need for physical excavation that might damage important sites. The development of autonomous robotic systems capable of operating in extreme polar conditions opens the possibility of accessing suspected installation sites without risking human safety or violating Antarctic treaty restrictions. Such systems could potentially enter chambers or corridors beneath the ice, providing direct visual and sensor data about any structures that might exist. The political and international cooperation requirements for such investigations reflect the global significance of potential discoveries. The Antarctic Treaty System, while providing important protections for the continent's environment, also ensures that any major discoveries would be shared internationally rather than being claimed by individual nations for political or economic advantage. The scientific protocols for investigating potential ancient sites would need to balance the excitement of potential discovery with the responsibility to preserve and protect whatever might be found. Ancient installations, if they exist, would represent irreplaceable cultural heritage sites that deserve the same protection and respect accorded to other World Heritage Sites. The possibility that such installations might still contain functional technologies or preserved organic materials would require extremely careful handling to prevent contamination or damage. The sterile environment of Antarctic ice might have preserved artifacts, documents, or even biological materials in ways that could provide unprecedented insights into ancient capabilities and lifestyles. The discovery of preserved biological materials could provide direct evidence of the genetic heritage of pre-catastrophe populations and their relationship to modern human populations. DNA analysis could reveal whether the builders of Antarctic installations were anatomically modern humans like ourselves, or whether they represented different branches of human development. The preservation of seeds, plant materials, or other biological specimens could provide insights into ancient agricultural and pharmacological knowledge. The discovery of preserved psychoactive plants or their preparations could validate ancient traditions about consciousness-altering substances and their role in knowledge development and spiritual practices. The investigation of Antarctic installations also provides an opportunity to study how advanced knowledge and technology can be preserved through catastrophic environmental changes. The techniques used to protect installations from ice accumulation, temperature extremes, and seismic activity could provide insights valuable for protecting modern civilization from climate change and other environmental challenges. The energy systems that might have powered ancient Antarctic installations represent potentially revolutionary technologies for sustainable development. Geothermal systems that have operated for thousands of years could provide models for renewable energy that could help address current environmental crises. Closed-loop resource management systems developed for isolated Antarctic communities could provide insights for sustainable living in an increasingly resource-constrained world. The architectural and engineering techniques used to construct buildings capable of surviving under Antarctic ice for thousands of years could revolutionize modern construction. Materials and design principles that can withstand extreme temperature variations, massive structural loads from ice, accumulation, and isolation from normal supply chains could inform everything from space exploration to disaster-resistant construction. The discovery of ancient Antarctic installations would also provide crucial perspective on the relationship between human civilization and planetary environmental cycles. The evidence suggests that previous civilizations reached high levels of development during interglacial periods when global climates were more favorable, only to face catastrophic challenges when cosmic events triggered rapid climate changes. Understanding how previous civilizations adapted to such changes, what technologies and strategies they developed for survival, and how they managed to preserve essential knowledge through dark ages could provide crucial guidance for our own civilization as it faces the challenges of climate change and potential cosmic threats. The cyclical nature of environmental and cosmic challenges suggests that Earth will continue to experience such events in the future. The Taurid meteor stream remains active. Ice ages continue to come and go according to astronomical cycles, and other cosmic and terrestrial forces continue to shape the conditions for life on Earth. The knowledge preserved from previous cycles could be essential for navigating future challenges. The investigation of Antarctic anomalies represents more than just archaeological curiosity. It represents an opportunity to understand our place in the larger story of human development and cosmic evolution. The evidence suggests that consciousness, civilization, and technology have emerged and re-emerged multiple times in Earth's history, each time building upon knowledge preserved from previous cycles. The role of Antarctica in this larger story might extend beyond just serving as a refuge for one particular civilization. Its unique position and environment might make it a natural repository for knowledge from multiple cycles of human development. The installations detected beneath the ice might represent not just one civilization, but an accumulation of knowledge and technology from multiple periods of human achievement. The possibility that Antarctica has served as a kind of planetary library or archive for human knowledge opens extraordinary possibilities for future discovery. Rather than finding evidence of just one lost civilization, investigators might discover records and artifacts spanning hundreds of thousands of years of human development. Such discoveries could provide a comprehensive view of human potential and achievement that extends far beyond recorded history. The preservation of such an archive through multiple cycles of catastrophe and recovery would require extraordinary foresight and technological capability. The ancient builders would have needed to anticipate not just immediate environmental challenges, but also the long-term effects of cosmic cycles, climate changes, and geological processes. Their success in creating installations that have apparently survived for thousands of years under some of Earth's harshest conditions testifies to planning and engineering capabilities that exceed most modern achievements. The knowledge contained in such an archive could include not just technical information, but also wisdom about consciousness, spirituality, and the deeper purposes of human existence. Ancient traditions from around the world speak of hidden knowledge about the nature of reality, the capabilities of human consciousness, and the cosmic forces that shape human destiny. The discovery of intact installations might provide access to the original sources of such knowledge. The integration of technical and spiritual knowledge in ancient traditions suggests that the builders of Antarctic installations understood connections between consciousness, technology that modern civilization has largely forgotten. Their approaches to energy, construction, agriculture, and social organization might demonstrate ways of living that are both technologically advanced and environmentally sustainable. The investigation of these possibilities requires not just advanced technology, but also the wisdom to approach ancient knowledge with appropriate respect and humility. The builders of Antarctic installations, if they existed, were clearly operating at levels of knowledge and capability that we're only beginning to appreciate. Their achievements deserve study not just for their historical significance, but for their potential contributions to addressing current human challenges. The story of ancient Antarctic installations, whether confirmed by future discoveries or remaining as tantalizing possibilities, represents the larger story of human potential and resilience. It suggests that consciousness and civilization can achieve remarkable heights, survive seemingly insurmountable challenges, and preserve essential knowledge for future generations. Most importantly, it demonstrates that we are part of a much larger and more remarkable story than we we typically imagine. The ancient maps that started this investigation, with their impossible knowledge of Antarctic coastlines, represent just the first clues in what might be one of the greatest discoveries in human history. Each new satellite image, each thermal anomaly, each radar signature brings us closer to answering fundamental questions about who we are and what we're capable of achieving. The ice of Antarctica may be holding not just the remnants of one lost civilization, but the accumulated wisdom of multiple cycles of human development. The knowledge preserved in those frozen depths might provide the keys to not just understanding our past, but also navigating our future. As we stand at our own crossroads, facing challenges that will determine whether our civilization thrives or joins the list of collapsed societies, the wisdom of our ancestors might provide the guidance we need to choose the path of survival and continued growth. The discovery beneath the ice would mark not an end, but a beginning. The beginning of a new chapter in human understanding that could transform our relationship with our planet, our cosmos, and ourselves. The story of human civilization might be far older, far more complex, and far more hopeful than we ever dared imagine. And the key to that story might be waiting for us beneath the ice at the bottom of the world, where our ancestors once walked, and where their greatest achievements might still be preserved, ready to inspire and guide us toward our own greatest achievements yet to come.